Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Syrian and Russian jets bomb rebel held northwest Syria after rebels launched biggest incursion into Aleppo since ceasefire came into effect 4 years ago. Taiwan steps up security along its maritime borders, detects 41 Chinese military aircraft ships around the island. Iran to hold disputed nuclear talks with France, Germany and UK today. Talks follow IAEA's resolution denouncing Tehran for lack of cooperation. And UK MPs will debate and likely vote on contentious assisted dying law today. Bill will allow some terminally ill people to have a medically assisted death. Russian and Syrian warplanes bombed rebel-held northwest Syria near the border with Turkey on Thursday to push back an insurgent offensive that captured territory for the first time in years. The joint Russian-Syrian offensive were massive, inflicting heavy losses to the rebels. The Islamist militant group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and allied factions said they had seized control of more than a dozen of towns and villages in Aleppo and Idlib provinces since Wednesday. The Syrian military said its forces were confronting a large-scale attack by a terrorist. The army said it was cooperating with Russia and unnamed friendly forces to regain ground and restore the situation. A UK-based monitoring group said more than 200 combatants on both sides had been killed in the fighting. At least 19 civilians had also been killed in Syrian and Russian airstrikes on opposition-held areas. More than 500,000 people have been killed in the civil war that erupted after the government cracked down violently on peaceful pro-democracy protests in 2011. Russia, a close ally of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, intervened in Syria's civil war in 2015, helping shift the conflict in Assad's favor. Israel said its air force struck a facility used by Hezbollah to store mid-range rockets in southern Lebanon on Thursday after both sides accused each other of breaching a ceasefire that aims to halt over a year of fighting. Israeli military said it also opened fire on Thursday towards what it called suspects with vehicles arriving at several areas in the southern zone, saying it was a breach of the truce with Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah, which came into effect on Wednesday. Hezbollah lawmaker Hassan Fadlallah in turn accused Israel of violating the ceasefire several times on Wednesday and Thursday.
Today's message must be completed by having a national decision, first, to build a strong, just and capable state, and second, by having an army with the most modern weapons, and for its decision to be that of cabinet and government to counter any Israeli violation. There are violations today by Israel. Even in this form, we are with the state countering and carrying out its full role. That is why we say to.
Further, Israeli army has prohibited displaced Lebanese from returning to their homes in southern Lebanon. Lebanese residents are prohibited from moving south to a line of villages and their surroundings until further notice. Israel said it opened fire on Thursday towards what it called suspects with vehicles arriving at several areas in the southern zone, saying it was a breach of the truce with Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah, which came into effect on Wednesday. The exchange of accusations highlighted the fragility of the ceasefire, which was brokered by the United States and France to end the conflict fought in parallel with the Gaza war. The truce lasts for 60 days in the hope of reaching a permanent cessation of hostilities. Israel's airstrike on Thursday was the first since the truce took effect on Wednesday morning. While Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated his warning that any failure by Hezbollah to comply with the ceasefire terms would lead to an intensive war. In his first interview since the Lebanon ceasefire, Netanyahu described the Lebanon ceasefire as potentially brief, stating that Israel enforced it on its first day. Netanyahu said he had given the Israel Defense Forces instructions that in the case of a massive violation of the agreement, the response would extend beyond surgical operations, like they are doing now. Shifting focus, Russian President Vladimir Putin threatened to strike decision-making centers in Kiev with Russia's new hypersonic missile. Putin said a Russian overnight missile and drone attack on Ukraine's power grid was a response to Ukraine's use of long-range US and UK weapons inside Russia. Russia fired more than 90 missiles and around 100 drones during the barrage, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urging his allies to respond firmly to what he dubbed Russian blackmail.
We will respond to such acts of aggression against the Russian Federation. How and when and with what weapons we will respond will depend on the targets that will be selected by the General Staff of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. Because for each, a different type of weapon suitable for these purposes must be used.
Meanwhile, Ukraine reports no fatalities after the attack, but more than 1 million Ukrainians are left without power as 12 targets were struck. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of a despicable escalation, saying it had used cruise missiles with cluster munitions. He also discussed the attack with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who described targeting the energy sector as depraved.
We must respond together to Russia's attempt to make the situation more unbearable and to try to drag out this war. We are interested in peace, us and all partners. Now is the time to strengthen our positions, the positions of Ukraine and our partners. Any Russian blackmail must be met with a tough response, in the way Putin deserves, and we must see the prospect of ending the war with genuine peace together with America, together with Europe, together with all the partners.
Now, US President Joe Biden has said that Russia's overnight aerial attack against Ukraine is outrageous and serves as a reminder of the urgency and importance of supporting the Ukrainian people. Biden, in a statement released by the White House on Thursday, said that Russia continues to underestimate the bravery, resilience and determination of the Ukrainian people, adding, the United States stands with more than 50 countries in support of Ukraine and its fight for freedom. Russia on Thursday unleashed its second big attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure this month, triggering deep power cuts across the country. President Vladimir Putin said Moscow had struck in response to Ukraine's strikes on Russian territory with US medium-range ATACMS missiles. Now, Taiwan on Friday reported an increase in Chinese military activity around the island, detecting over 41 PLA aircraft and vessels around the island. In response, Taiwan has stepped up security along its maritime borders. Taiwan's armed forces conducted a comprehensive air defense drill on Thursday as China reportedly prepares for its third large-scale military exercise, Joint SWORD 2024C, near Taiwan. The drill, which involved air, naval and missile defense units, was conducted to strengthen readiness against potential aerial and missile threats. The Air Force Command stated that the exercise took place from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., deploying further, fighter jets, naval vessels and air defense missile systems. Aircraft such as the indigenous defense fighter Mirage 2000, F-16 and Cu-130 transport planes were utilized along with ground-based air defense missile units. And Ireland is holding a general election on Friday with the incumbent coalition parties in a tight race against the opposition party Sinn Féin. Voters will cast their ballots for new members of the 174-seat lower house of the Parliament, the Dáil in Dublin. The campaign has been dominated by contentious issues, particularly the housing crisis and the rising cost of living. Counting will begin on Saturday morning with partial results expected throughout the day. A final result in Ireland's election may take several days to determine due to proportional representation system, which involves redistributing votes from eliminated candidates in multiple rounds of counting. Fine Gael, led by Simon Harris, who called the snap election earlier this month, entered the campaign with a solid lead. And the Maldives People's Majlis has approved a record state budget for 2025, about $3.66 billion US. The budget caps expenditure at 49.2 billion rupiahs, with 35.9 billion allocated for recurrent expenses and 13.3 billion for capital projects. However, concerns over stalled projects, lack of accountability and absent project details have sparked criticism. Lawmakers have directed the government to submit project breakdowns by early 2025. A ruling party proposal also scrapped the requirement for quarterly budget updates. And human activities are causing world temperatures to rise, posing serious threats to people and nature. But experts say urgent action on various fronts can still limit the worst effects of climate change. With more plastics and human-made chemicals being produced than the planet can afford, representatives of nearly 200 nations have gathered in South Korea's Busan to deliberate on a deal to curb plastic pollution, result of which is expected by the end of this week. It is to be noted that just 9% of plastic is currently recycled globally. Further, if plastic production continues as planned, by 2050, the accumulation of greenhouse gas emissions from plastic could use 10 to 13% of our entire remaining carbon budget. Well, next week, Saudi Arabia will host the COP16 UN Conference on Land Degradation and Desertification. UN Chief Antonio Guterres has called the meeting a moonshot moment to protect and restore land and respond to drought. Land is considered degraded when its productivity has been harmed by human activities like pollution or deforestation. Desertification is an extreme form of degradation. Another significant event is happening next week. The world's top court will start unprecedented hearings aimed at finding a legal blueprint for how countries should protect the environment from damaging greenhouse gases and what the consequences are if they do not. From Monday, lawyers and representatives from more than 100 countries and organizations will make submissions before the International Court of Justice in The Hague, the highest number ever. Activists hope the legal opinion from the ICJ judges will have far-reaching consequences in the fight against the climate change. And Australia on Thursday approved a social media ban for children aged under 16 after an emotive debate that gripped the nation, setting a benchmark for jurisdictions around the world with one of the toughest regulations targeting big tech.
Australia on Thursday passed a landmark law banning children under the age of 16 from accessing social media, citing the need to protect their mental health.
Honourable Senators, the committee has considered the Online Safety Amendment Social Media Minimum Age Bill 2024.
The law will make platforms including TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Reddit, X and Instagram liable for fines of up to 50 million Australian dollars for systematic failures to prevent children younger than 16 from holding accounts. A number of countries have already vowed to curb social media use by children through legislation, but Australia's policy is the most stringent. The platforms will have 1 year to work out how they could implement the ban before penalties are enforced. The law does not penalize children or their parents for violating the ban. Instead, platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and Snapchat will be required to take reasonable steps to enforce the minimum age requirement. Platforms where content is also used for educational purposes, including YouTube and messaging apps like WhatsApp, are exempt from the restrictions. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese emphasized the government's commitment to protecting young Australians, saying the government is sending a message to social media companies to clean up their act.
And today, as a direct result of our legislation passed through the Parliament yesterday, through the Senate and confirmed in the House today, parents can have a different discussion with their young ones, a different discussion that will result in better outcomes and less harm for young Australians. Platforms now have a social responsibility to ensure the safety of our kids is a priority for them. We're making sure that mums and dads can have that different conversation today and in future days. We've got your back is our message to Australian parents.
Teenagers' reaction from across the world are a mix of disbelief, frustration and concern. Teenagers in Madrid and Belgium were critical of the legislative action.
I'm strongly against it because I feel like we are a new generation that is accustomed of having social media in our life, and it's something we use on a daily basis, and I think restricting our use isn't going to help us.
French and British teenagers had mixed feelings for the Australian ban on social media.
I mean, that's kind of crazy to me. I grew up with social media, and the year I was born was literally I think the year the iPhone 5 came out. So I'm just super used to growing up with it, and I feel like people under the age of 16 right now wouldn't know how to live without their phones and social media. It'd be a really hard change for them.
Social media giants have also hit out at the landmark Australian law. They described it as a rush job littered with many unanswered questions. TikTok said on Friday it was disappointed in the law, accusing the government of ignoring mental health, online safety, and youth experts who had opposed the ban. With inputs from Shivali Kumari, Meher Raj Singh, DD India.
Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Winter session of Indian Parliament continues to witness disruption as opposition MPs resort to sloganeering. We'll show an exclusive conversation with Australian film director Philip Noyce, who received this year's Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award at the 55th IFFI. And we'll show you how cities across the globe are gearing up for the Christmas festivities.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. The Environment, Forest, Climate Change Advisor of Bangladesh's interim government, Saida Rizwana Hassan, has said that no discussion was held to ban ISKCON in the country. She added that the government is not mixing the offences of organisations with the offences of individuals. Earlier on Thursday, Bangladesh High Court refused to intervene in the ISKCON-related violence issues after being informed that the authorities concerned have taken necessary measures in this regard. It expressed satisfaction with the government's response and instructed it to continue efforts to safeguard citizens' lives and property. Later on Thursday, ISKCON Bangladesh's General Secretary said Chinmoy Krishnadas does not belong to them as he was expelled by the organisation. He added that the organisation would not shoulder any responsibility over his statements and speeches. Earlier this week, Chinmoy Prabhu was arrested by the Dhaka police on Monday on charges of sedition in Bangladesh. Now, Bob Blackman, a Conservative Member of Parliament for Harrow East in the United Kingdom, has condemned the attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh. Addressing the British Parliament on Thursday, Blackman showed his concern by the attempt of a high court in Bangladesh to ban ISKCON from the country. He said that Hindus in Bangladesh are now subject to death, with their spiritual leader being arrested and their houses being burnt.
Right now, Mr. Speaker, the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, who run Bhaktivinoda Manor in Elstree, the largest Hindu temple in this country, in Bangladesh, their spiritual leader is under arrest. Hindus across Bangladesh are being subject literally to death by their houses being burnt, their temples are being burnt, and there was an attempt today in the Bangladesh High Court to rule that ISKCON should be banned from the country. This is a direct attack on Hindus. Now, this is a threat from India now to take action. We have a responsibility because we enable Bangladesh to be free and independent. Now, whatever the change of government has been in Bangladesh, it cannot be acceptable that religious minorities are persecuted in this way.
Some updates from the winter session of the Indian Parliament. The session kicked off at 11 a.m. on Friday. However, it was stalled as the Lok Sabha, the lower house of India's Parliament, was adjourned till 12 noon earlier. Now, both houses along with the upper house or the Rajya Sabha have been adjourned till Monday 11 a.m. In the session, the draft of the Joint Parliamentary Committee on Waqf was tabled in the upper house of the Indian Parliament, in which it was proposed to extend the tenure of the committee till the last day of the upcoming budget session. All right, we'll go across to DD India's Vishal Barrister. He has more information on this. Vishal, disruption in Parliament again with opposition MPs resort to sloganeering after Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha also adjourned till Monday now. Complete washout in the first week of the winter session.
Well, absolutely. Very good afternoon to you, Abhishek. Yes, a complete washout of the first week of the Parliament, the first week of the winter session. No business transacted. This is very, very unfortunate. We've spoken to the first time Member of Parliament, Chandrasekhar. He belongs to the Azad Samaj Party. He said that it is very unfortunate because newcomers like me want to voice the opinion of the constituency of my people. We want to discuss important issues in the Parliament, but because of the disruptions, I'm not able to voice my opinion. Now, the opposition, the divided voices coming out from the opposition, while one segment is hell-bent to disrupt the proceedings of the House, both in the lower house and the upper house. There are certain parties who are, those sitting in the opposition, want to participate in the parliamentary proceedings. So what started off from day one ended on the last day of the first week, and now the ball has been again pushed into the court of the opposition, because it is the opposition who should take up the responsibility for not letting the House function. And next week we are still not sure whether the opposition parties would relent from their repeated disruption of the House, but it would be up to the government how they convince the opposition parties, because the opposition has been time and again raising the issue of irregularities, financial irregularities against the Adani group, the violence in Sambal and Manipur.
Absolutely, complete washout in the first week of both the houses. Thank you, Vishal. We'll leave it at that. The suspense continues over the next Chief Minister of Western Indian state of Maharashtra. The BJP High Command has been in back and forth discussions regarding the Chief Minister's post with state, central and various stakeholders, and the final name is likely to be chosen in a day or two. Mahayuti leaders Devendra Fadnavis, Eknath Shinde and Ajit Pawar are in Delhi to discuss the seat-sharing formula and reach a consensus on the Chief Minister's name that will be accepted by all alliance partners. In the State Assembly elections, Mahayuti secured a landslide victory with 230 seats, including 132 for BJP in the 288-member State Assembly. As cyclone Fengal approaches the coastal districts of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, schools and colleges in Puducherry will remain closed on Friday and Saturday too, due to heavy rainfall expected from the cyclone, which is intensifying over the Bay of Bengal. According to the India Met Department, the cyclone is likely to strengthen in the next 48 hours, bringing heavy rain, strong winds and potential flooding to Tamil Nadu's coastal areas, Puducherry and Andhra Pradesh. All right, we'll go across to DD India correspondent Anbarsan. He is joining us live. Anbarsan, cyclone Fengal approaches Tamil Nadu. Heavy rain predicted in several districts. Tell us about the preparations and also advisories issued by the government.
As the latest update from the regional meteorological department in Chennai has said that in next 3 hours the deep depression may be intensified to a weaker cyclone as a Bengal. It may reach tomorrow morning or around early morning in between Mamallapuram to Karaikal, particularly the Marackanam region. That is what the latest update on the deep depression. In 3 hours, it may intensify as a weak cyclone. And also, the preparation-wise, around 1,000 relief camps are established across the Chennai and also KTCC region, and also all the coastal districts of Tamil Nadu. And the red alert is given to the 9 districts of Tamil Nadu. As we already said that the public holiday for the schools are declared for the 9 districts, including Chennai and also surrounding regions. And the Indian Navy also in full swing, and particularly NDRF and SDRF. Nearly 12 teams are in full swing to reach the location wherever and across all the districts.
All right.
And that is the latest update.
All right, Anbarsan, keep tracking this story. We'll keep coming back to you. Australian film director Philip Noyce was the recipient of this year's Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award at the 55th International Film Festival of India in Goa. In an exclusive conversation with DD India correspondent Deepika Mehto, Noyce talked about his admiration for Indian auteur Satyajit Ray, budget constraints in film production, and the reach of Indian cinema. Take a listen.
We have with us Mr. Philip Noyce from Australia. So thank you so much for joining us in this exclusive broadcast, and many, many congratulations to you for this prestigious award.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So when we talk about, first of all, the award and your experience here in India, what do you have to say about it? Because you've been sharing a lot of stories about Satyajit Ray and what kind of inspiration you drew from the legend.
We in Australia were very influenced by his films, particularly the Apu trilogy. Even though it was made before I was an adult, I was still a boy when in the 50s when he made the Pather Panchali. But you know, he was legendary in Australia because we grew up on big American films, extravaganzas, and Satyajit Ray taught us to look for the heart, to make stories from the heart, to be small in scope but big in heart. We in Australia saw Ray's films and said, okay, this is how we can make films. This is how we can make the smaller budget films. So, you know, we dreamed of making feature films.
Budget has been one important aspect, not only for Indian cinema, but for global cinema. What is your take on that?
At the moment, the film industry all over the world is in a little bit of chaos, particularly in America, but I suspect in every country. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about technology and the evils of AI and how AI is going to rob writers and rob actors. As a director, I would say, thank goodness for AI, because that's the way in which we can also, you know, make big films for small budgets by using technology.
What's your take about the production, the kind of transformation that India has witnessed, which is now being seen in the world at different film festivals?
Well, you know, the revolution that's taken place in film distribution has aided all countries outside America, because now we can see so many Indian films on Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so on. So before we were starved, we had to go to film festivals to see Indian films. And now we can turn on our TVs and we have a huge selection, and that's a good thing, a great thing.
How do you feel on receiving this award from India in India?
Well, you know, it's embarrassing in a way, because compared to what he did, I think that I'm a pretender. This was a man whose films I greatly admired, who inspired me, who inspired my generation of film directors in Australia. Receiving this award named after that great filmmaker, it's humbling.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for joining us for this exclusive conversation, and many congratulations to you once again for the prestigious award.
Thank you.
And cities across the globe are warming up for the Christmas festivities as the crowds throng for venues decked up for the arrival of Santa. And these are the dazzling attractions. And India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves Entering the field of OTT platform, Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.